Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Silver Savage podcast. I am coming to you again from my Connex shipping container, mostly because of convenience. For those that don't know, this is literally sitting in my backyard. So if I don't want to drive all the way to the recording studio of my office, this is a good second. I used to do it from my camper. This is a little quieter, and honestly, the vibe is a little bit better. I can work on a little bit of better background than just a white wall and this couch I sit on. This is where I keep my gun safes and my bourbon and a bunch of other nifty little things. So this seems to be a good alternative for the actual studio. So I hope you guys don't mind, those of you that are watching this instead of just listening to it. Before we get into today's episode, which I'm excited about, I don't think it's going to be very long. I don't know yet. We'll find out. But before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about just Silver Savage as a community. To everybody that is new to this, as you guys know, we started this podcast. I want to say we're on the third year, so we haven't been on for quite 3 years yet, but we've been on for a while, and our following has grown, and I appreciate all of it. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you to all of you who've been following, certainly those of you that have been with us from the beginning, but those of you that were sharing the content, and those of you that submit questions. I always say a lot of the content that I put out is based strictly or straight out of comments and questions that you guys submit. So if you guys submit more questions, I can make sure the content is more applicable to you. So I hope I'm hitting the mark on that one. And I did, again, want to say thank you, how grateful I am and how much I appreciate it, but also ask you to please keep doing that. We don't charge anything for it. We don't take any sponsors. There's really zero monetary value out of this, other than I just love sharing information and knowledge. And if you guys find anything useful in it, then all I ask is that you share it with others if you don't mind. As a community, Silver Savage crew from Just a Podcast, we have some products. If you go on our website, silversavage.com, you can see some products, some shirts, some swag, but also some, I'm going to say grooming, health products, for lack of a better term. One of them is an inhaler, so that will give you a little bit of energy instead of taking all those energy drinks that are super bad for you. This inhaler is all organic and essential oils, and will get you moving. It also, from people that have used it, I heard it's really good with helping with congestions, allergies, and even migraines. The other thing we have is a pain balm. So again, trying to keep us healthy. At the end of the day, our community is all about keeping people safe, healthy, and developing leaders and protectors. And we can't do it if we're injured. So we have a pain balm. So that is a better alternative to like Bengay and I don't know, whatever else, Tiger Balm. Whatever else you would be using. Again, it's all organic and essential oils. So go check those out. Last but not least, we have a coaching program. So if you're an entrepreneur or a warrior that just wants to make their life better, or just need a little more direction in life, we do have a coaching program, a bunch of savages. We share information, we hold each other accountable, and you get one-on-one time with me as well. So if you're interested in that, again, you can link to it from silversavage.com, or you can go directly to silversavagecoaching.com and join us there. It's $65 a month, and a lot of value in my mind. So just throwing it out there for those of you interested. And last but not least, this upcoming week, we're actually going to have our first retreat. This is for coaching clients only. So if you are a member, we're going to hold this quarterly, where we have guest speakers. We have two very exciting speakers coming to share some knowledge with our group, and we get to do some evolutions together in the sense of some exercises. I'm going to do one of those with you today, and just hang out with a bunch of cool people. So this intro was a little bit longer than I usually would like it to be, but I rarely talk about Silver Savage as a community, and I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So with no further ado, let's get into the episode. I use this opportunity of going into the episode and playing the intro to have a sip of this whiskey. It's actually not a bourbon. It is Powers. It's an Irish whiskey. Our friend Tom gave it to me, and I actually like it. So even though I'm a bourbon guy, I do like this a lot. So what do I want to talk to you about today that got me so excited? This is a process I've been going through with our coaching clients. And really, if you follow our morning briefs or my morning briefs, you can follow those all my social media platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. you'll know that I talk a lot about evolution. How as people, we need to evolve, we need to grow, we need to change, we need to pivot sometimes because of circumstances, but more importantly, we want to choose to grow and change. As we become different people, I would very much argue that whoever you are today is not the same person you were in the past, right? So put whatever time frame you want to put on it. You're not the same person you were a decade ago. You're certainly not the same person you were even a week ago, right? You grew, you changed, and something happened. So that's great. That's evolution, right? That's a good thing. And if you try to project to the future, whatever your goals may be, you're going to be a different person then. So evolution is a great thing. And with our coaching clients, we're going for a different exercise now where we try to build them. And it all has to start with your goal, right? So whatever your goal may be, it can be a physical goal. So I want to get in better shape. I want to lift a certain amount of weight. I want to run at a certain pace. It may be a relationship goal, right? I want to find that special person. I want my relationship with my kids to be better. I want my relationship with my parents or my colleagues, my staff better. So that may be a goal, right? A goal may be based on your personal development, right? I want to learn. I want to keep growing. I want to get a degree, right? That's growth. And for those of you that are business owners, or even if you're not a business owner, if you work for somebody else, right? Professionally, we want to grow, right? We want our business to evolve to a different level. If we work for a company, we want to be promoted. We want to move up the chain. So there's always evolution. There's always growth, and that growth's got to be intentional. If it is not intentional, right, and it's being either driven on you, so forced on you, right? You are being told what to do. So let's say you're an employee for a company, and instead of you dictating goal driven, right, to be in a certain position, you can be moved from one department to another department, or you can even be demoted to a different level, a different job, right? So that's not great, right? And the other way that people are not in control of their goals or their evolution is when they're being reactive, right? So something is forced upon you. Let's say there's a major layoff, or let's say if it's a relationship, God forbid, you lost somebody or you separated from somebody, right? So sometimes it's just forced on us, and it forces us to evolve, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but nothing that's reactive is going to be as effective or as efficient as something that's proactive, right? So evolution is important, and it's up to you to go through the process of identifying your goals. For those of you that have been following us in the Silver Savage community, we have 4 pillars. I mentioned all of them, but I'll repeat them. We have business. We have a warrior, right? So that's our physicality, our skill set if I'm into self-defense or shooting, but certainly our fitness and our conditioning. We have our mind, which is our own growth and development. It can be emotional, spiritual, right? Cognitive, educational, whatever, right? And we have our relationships. So those are the 4 pillars that we have to set goals in each and every one of them. We should never rest on our laurels. I put another brief on that yesterday. But oftentimes when we get comfortable, let's say we accomplished a goal, and then we're like, okay, we're there, we have nothing else to do. That's when you're going to find that goal is taken away from you within a certain amount of time, because you stopped investing and you're not as driven anymore, right? And the challenge is always to keep ourselves driven, keep ourselves motivated, so we can keep growing and reaching the next level. So you start by setting a goal, and then you decide, okay, what actions do I need to take in order to reach that goal? And you'll find that oftentimes that requires some sort of a pivot or a change in the environment, but certainly in you, right? You need to become a different person if you want to reach a different goal. I could not be the business owner that I am if I stayed the same person that I was 10, 15 years ago. I could not be the father that I am if I didn't learn or change for the person or the father I thought I was 15, 16 years ago when actually 17 years ago now when my firstborn came, right? So I had to evolve, I had to change. And if I wasn't to do it, I wouldn't be as good of a parent. So evolution, again, it's great, but it has to be driven by a goal, and it's got to be driven by circumstances and the environment. But it's up to you, right? So I actually want to, aside from talking about evolution and growth, which was one topic I wanted to discuss, the second topic I wanted to discuss refers more to the savage per se, and specifically the warrior. So I had this discussion with my friend Greg today, but it's a discussion that I've been having with our instructors at Masada Tactical or Self-Defense School. And it's an ongoing evolution again, right? So our system, Israeli combat system, originates from a combination of two, I want to say two martial arts, although they're not strictly martial arts, and I'll explain in a second. But if you track my lineage, actually I'm wearing the t-shirts, I just realized it wasn't on purpose. I started my martial art training under Gadi Skornik and then his son Guy Skornik, what was called at the time Skornik Kempujitsu, and now it's called Skornik Israeli Combat. They are what would be considered the forefather of martial arts in Israel, and actually for I think everybody agrees Gadi Skornik at the time was the one that actually awarded Emil Lichtenfeld, the originator of Krav Maga, his black belt. So Gadi Skornik is a legend, or was a legend, unfortunately passed away a few years ago. Guy, his son, who's a friend of mine as well, and someone that I certainly hold in the highest regard. Phenomenal fighter, phenomenal instructor. So that's the one lineage I came up to. And then when I joined the military, I was introduced more in depth into Krav Maga, and I started going that route as well, and combining both into what I coined the Israeli combat system. Now, people often ask me, why do you call it Israeli combat system and not Krav Maga? And I would be honest, Krav Maga, in my mind, in America, has been very much watered down. If you take Krav Maga the way it's taught to the Israeli military, it is all about aggression. When you take 18-year-old kids and you try to teach them how to survive a violent encounter, you can't teach them too many moves. You can't teach them too many fine mortal skill oriented techniques. You have to revert to the primal element of a human being in a fight, and that is the aggression element. And when Krav Maga was brought to America, over time at least, and certainly when I was introduced to Krav Maga here in America, it was very much watered down. There were some skills that were developed that are not part of Krav in the military in Israel. There were Krav techniques that they teach in Israel that were not taught here, and certainly a lot of the aggression element in terms of fighting, sparring, and some of the evolutions in the drills were taken away. Mostly I would assume because of liability and insurance needs. But in my mind, we started missing the mark. And I did not want to be associated with American Krav Maga. And again, if you practice any form of Krav Maga in America, or whatever organization you're affiliated with, I don't want you to take this out of context. I think Krav Maga is great, and whoever you follow, it's great. That was just my own personal experience, my own personal opinion. And I certainly hold to highest regard anybody that trains in any style out there, not just Krav Maga, but if you do karate, jiu-jitsu, judo, hapkido, whatever, except for maybe Tai Chi. Just kidding. If you do Tai Chi, more power to you, I suppose. But the idea is, I'm not trying to knock on anybody, I'm just sharing my story. So I didn't want to be associated with the Krav Maga in America because I wanted people to understand when they come to train by me, we are going to maintain some of those elements of the Israeli training in terms of aggression and the skills. So that was one. The other thing that I found to be a turnoff in a sense when we talk about being associated with any Krav organization is I did not want to be bound to any one specific organization and their specific curriculum. And this is where really evolution comes in. I felt that Krav Maga over the years became very much like traditional martial arts. So if we take karate, for example, on all its offshoots, from Shotokan to Kyokushin to Kyokushinkai, there's a bunch of them. And again, they're all great, but they're all very strict, and you have to stick to their curriculum, or you have to change over to a different school, a different sensei, right, in a different style. And I didn't want to be that strict. I want to be able to evolve and change if needs be, because that's the reality of the world we live in. And if you think of the true context of Krav Maga was developed for to be ever evolving, to address the most immediate threats, the most current evolution, the more current scenarios that we see, right? The threats that we witnessed, let's say, in the 1990s when I enlisted in the military are different than the threats today in 2024. So I had to think of the year, right? But the idea is that I can address things the same way. And if I work with law enforcement, which I do a lot, even more so, because the criminal element, I can't speak, counter trains to the way police trains, because they have nothing but time And honestly, I know when I trained at the academy, we had gang members trying to get into the academy, and some of them did make it in. Some of them actually completed the academy and even went to work as law enforcement officers just so they can take that knowledge to their gang brothers and sisters. We know the same thing happens in the military. So we know the criminal element counter trains to the way we train, and we need to keep evolving so we can develop skills to counter train the way they counter train, essentially. And what happened with some of these Krav Maga organizations, they kind of got stuck. They got stuck in whatever year they were brought over or wherever their instructor is. Some of it has to do with tradition, but some of it has to do with ego, to be honest, and people thinking that their way is the way and nobody else's matters. And I'm gonna actually give a lot of credit for a friend, Ernie Kirk, who was on our podcast, so you can find the episode with him. But Ernie is very known to, and I quote him, to say when we do the International Krav Camp every summer, and you guys are welcome to come. It's a phenomenal experience with a lot of instructors. It's called the International Krav Camp, but there's different Krav instructors, Jiu-Jitsu instructors, other styles instructors, knife fighting instructors, there's even firearm instructors. So come and take advantage of it if you want to be exposed to a lot of different things. But Ernie Kirk, that puts it together with his wife, and is known to say, I don't know if I'm using proper grammar, so I apologize, but that his way is a way, not necessarily the way. And I give him a lot of respect for that, because that's the attitude that I take when I teach self-defense. So making a full circle and getting back to evolution. Over the past few months, I've been really going deep into some of my personal goals and some of the things that I want to accomplish. And one of them was I want to make sure that the self-defense skills that I teach, whether I work with civilians at our gym, whether I work with law enforcement officers, either my agency or other agencies, or the clinical staff that we teach at hospital self-defense, I want to make sure that I give them the most relevant information, and I wanted to keep evolving. And being that I am not associated with any one specific Krav organization, I have the liberty of doing so. So over the past few months, I actually went ahead and changed a few skills. So if you're one of our students, be on the lookout to some changes. And I always tell our members from the get-go, the skills that you see today may be different than 2 or 3 years from now. And if you were a member in the past and you come today, 80%, 90% may be the same, but there's going to be some differences, which is a good thing, because that means that we didn't stagnate, that we evolved with the times, that we simplified some things, we added something, we took out some things. We had to do what we had to do in order to make sure that you, as the ultimate practitioner, or the person that likely will have to use these skills in self-defense, as the most accurate, relevant, and applicable skills for whatever situation you find yourself in. So I am very proud of that process that we're going through. So how do I go through that process? And again, we're sticking to the self-defense today. There are 2 elements that I really want to stick to. One of them is what's called Hick's Law. So for those of you not familiar with Hick's Law, Dr. Hick was a cognitive psychologist that measured response time based on response option. And what he found out is that the more options you have, the slower your reaction time. Essentially, your brain has to sift through all those options to come with what's the most appropriate response to that question, to that scenario, to that problem. The problem is that the only luxury we do not have under stress, and specifically in a fight, and certainly if it's a life or death situation, is time. I don't have the time to go and sift through all those options. What Dr. Hicks found was that for every option, your response time slows down by about 300%. So it still may be milliseconds, the first, second, third option, but then it exponentially grows from there. And the more options you have, the slower it becomes. And that's an issue. Specifically, if a person is not going to be training enough, that will be a hindrance in a real self-defense situation. So my goal is always to teach the least amount of skills that can solve the most amount of problems for our students. Are there absolutes? No. If there was a skill that worked 100% of the time, we would all be training in it. But what we try to do is give people the skill that works for most people most of the times. And then we do have some alternatives for those cases when it doesn't. That's where training at our program does come handy, because we want you to get the repetitions on the basics as much as possible, and then we have the opportunity to build on it as needed. If you guys are familiar with the 10,000 rule, I hear different numbers, either 10,000 repetition or 10,000 hours. It doesn't matter. Either one is a pretty high number. And the reality is that most people will not get that amount of repetition on any skill. And it becomes even more of an issue if they practice the wrong skill and then they have to fight their own muscle memory under stress. So Hicks law is one. And the second one is the skill cannot go against your body's natural response. If my body naturally is going to respond in a certain manner to a certain threat, then me trying to teach you something that's going to go against it, even if you perform it 100% perfect in classes over and over again, but under stress, your body's still going to go down to its reflex, then I failed you as an instructor, and I certainly don't want to do that. So if I keep those two things in mind, what we've been doing is we go over the skills and we collect feedback. We collect feedback from our students. We collect feedbacks by viewing videos. I am certainly fortunate enough because of my job to be in constant touch with law enforcement agencies and with hospitals and with students that can parlay back to me the effects of the skills if they had to use them. If a law enforcement officer says, this is what happened and this is what I did, I can use that information to develop a better skill. So for example, a pistol disarm is a direct result of feedback given by a specific agency that was trained by one of the craft organizations and saying, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. We need to come up with something else. And we went through videos of body cam footage and so forth and see what do they naturally do, and let's build on that. Let's not try to fight it, just make it better. So I'll give you two examples of skills that we are adjusting or evolving in a sense. And again, I'm not saying that the old skill wasn't good. I think it can be better. And as an instructor, I'll be remiss if I did not share that with my student. So the first one is what we call an outside defense. So if you train in Krav Maga, you will learn something called outside defense or 360, depending who you talk to, where one arm does this perfect 90-degree angle at the elbow, arm is extended, palm is out, I'm meeting it as far away from my body as I can. What that terminology do you use? You use it as its own attack on its own right? You recoil at the end. The problem is that as that one hand does that block, the other hand simultaneously is supposed to punch. It's supposed to be this pretty thing that is a block and a counter simultaneously, and it's supposed to be done in all 360 degrees around your body. If I practice enough, I may be able to do it in a controlled environment. But what happened is I started watching footage of people being attacked, either being punched or attacked with a blade. And the reality is the defense got to be the same, at least initially, because most people that were attacked with a blade would tell you, I didn't realize there was a blade in the fight until after. So I cannot have one defense against a knife and a different one against a blade. Again, Hicks law. I'm going to try to teach you the least amount of skills that have the most amount of applications, so your brain doesn't have to think, is there a knife? Is there no knife? Do I do A? Do I do B? It doesn't matter. You always do the same. So I've watched videos of people defending against knife, defending against punches. I've watched my students in classes sparring, people with a lot of experience that have been training for years, still under stress cannot block and punch simultaneously. That is a level of coordination that exceeds a human natural response under stress. But we do know that if I was to take a dodgeball right now and throw it towards your face as fast as I can, you're probably going to try to move your head or duck, but more importantly, your hands are going to come up. It's called the flinch response or the startle response. You can't fight it. It's a reflex. If I look at victims of car accidents, I will always see lacerations and bruising on the forearms because their body's going to do that naturally so fast that it beats the airbag being deployed, and that's why they get those lacerations and bruising on the forearm. So if your body's going to do that anyways, why the fuck would I try to change that, right? And if I know that my body's going to send probably both hands, and even if I try to block one and strike with the other, which is not going to happen, then what should I do, right? And the reality is what we started teaching and what a lot of our curriculum was changing to is we're just going to flinch, because I can flinch in any angle around my body and it's still going to be effective. And I don't care if you end up blocking with the same side arm or the opposite arm. It absolutely doesn't matter because you blocked the punch. And then the second thing you're going to do after that is you're going to be counter striking as violently as I can, right? So depending on the angle, maybe a hammer fist, maybe a headbutt, maybe a kick, doesn't matter. That's the beauty of it, because it has to be principle based. If I taught you a kata, a sequence, a fight doesn't work that way. A fight is a dynamic situation that always evolves, always changes. It's fast, it's aggressive, it's violent, and I cannot give you a sequence of steps to take, but I can give you principles. And if all I tell you is block, counter, disengage, and reassess, you'll remember that. I can block, I can counter, I can take a step back, and I can figure out, is there a knife, is there no knife? Maybe I need to repeat that process again. Do I run away? Do I keep punching? Do I control them? It depends on my position in the world, right? Am I working as a law enforcement officer? Am I a nurse at the hospital? Am I a civilian out in a store with my kid, right? Everything is gonna dictate a different response, but these principles are always gonna be the same. So I'm using that as an example for you guys to understand the process we're going through. And I'm gonna give you another skill. So hair grab defenses, specifically from the front. A lot of people used to teach sending their hands towards the head where the grip is, kind of squeezing it down to prevent that hair from being pulled, and then stepping back in a way, trying to apply pressure on the opponent's wrist and taking them down to the ground. The reality that was dependent on speed. You have to be fast enough to recognize and do it, right? There's a lot of fine motor skills there, which is not likely to happen under stress. If you've ever been in a car accident where you start shaking because of adrenaline, right? Now think that in those conditions, because you're afraid and you're scared, you're trying to be precise with your hands, you're trying to bring your elbows together, you're trying to take steps back. It is super complicated, super complex, and again, it's a kata, and I refer to the term kata as in the traditional karate sequence or pre-choreographed sequence of skills and tools, and it's not gonna work that way, right? The other thing is moving back when somebody's pulling you forward. It's just gonna increase the pressure on the grab, right? And it's just gonna make it hurt more. And it is going to be strength dependent. If the person is significantly bigger and stronger than you, I don't care how explosive you drop your hands on their feet and how explosive you try to bring your elbows together and bend forward, they're going to win that fight. You're going to end up with your face smashing into the floor, and it's not going to work. We've seen it. We've seen people try to do that in classes against somebody that's actually trying to attack them, and it doesn't work. Funnily enough, even Krav, when you're being pulled from the side, from the rear or from the side, they still turn with that outside defense. I'm like, well, why are we doing one thing for the side and the back and a different one for the front? If I want to stick with Hicks' law, the attack is the same. It's a hair pull. I don't care which direction you're pulling it from. It's always the same. So let's break it down. What's my most immediate threat? It's not the hair pull per se. That may be what hurts, right? But the threat is what I'm being pulled into. It can be into a knee, into the corner of a table, taken down to the ground. So the way I prevent that and alleviate the pain on my hair at the same time is by bursting in, right? If I pull you at 10 miles per hour, but you burst in at 11 miles per hour, you're going to alleviate the pressure. The other thing that's going to happen, you're likely going to put me off balance because you're rushing into me now, right? Which is going to force me to step back, probably regroup my base. I may let go, I may not, it doesn't matter. But at that point, at least you're close to me and you can transition to striking because my hand is on your head. I can't defend and attack you with the same arm at the same time. So if I want to defend myself against your strikes, I need to let go of your hair, right? Otherwise, you can just keep hitting me. And it doesn't matter which direction you're being pulled. Just burst in. You pull from behind. Just spin into it. Burst in. Protect your face, right? That flinch response is going to happen anyways. Again, using your body's natural responses. It kills me when people try to go against it, right? Just do what your body is going to do, right? The beauty of it, again, going back to Hicks' law, if it works for hair, it's going to work for a shirt. It's going to work for a scarf tied around your neck. It's going to work against a garrote. It's going to work against having a bag on your face, right? Every possible scenario that controls your head from the upper chest up, I can address in the same manner. So I just eliminated so many potential skills from a curriculum, really making it shorter and more digestible for my students, right? Made it work with their body's response, right? How much do you think I elevated their chances of success in a true stressful situation? Now, I'm not trying to boast my own ego here and just tell you that my program is the best, which it is, but that's a whole different story. The reason I am saying this is because I'm trying to drive the point of evolution. You cannot stay stagnant. You cannot do the same thing over and over again and expect it to always work because the world around you changes. You change. If you trained in a certain martial art when you were 15, 16, 17-year-old and now you're 50 with maybe less mobility and less conditioning and so forth, but maybe you're strong in other areas, Do you think you should be using the same skill, or do you think you should evolve to something else? I'd say evolve, right? Work with your body, not against your body. And there are some things that I could execute at 15 that I cannot now at 48, and vice versa. There are things I can do at 48 that I couldn't do at 15. Why would I not evolve with it? So the last comment I'm going to leave you with: take stock of your life, every element of your life, from your finances to your relationships to your business, to your mind, to your physicality. And if you're training any skills from shooting to self-defense, just take stock of everything, where you are, where you want to be, and how do you need to change in order to reach it. I hope this was helpful for you. Again, like I said at the beginning, if you guys don't mind, if you find any value in today's episode, please go ahead and share it. Actually, if you don't mind sharing it and tagging me in it, that'll be even better. But certainly share it. Let others benefit from this as well. And until next time, stay savage.